So in this session, we're going to skip ahead to more of the business side of Grafana Labs and our products. So my name's Raj Dutt. I'm the MC, but I'm also one of the co-founders of Grafana Labs. I'm the CEO. I work with Torkel and Anthony, our other co-founders that you guys will meet during this session. So the question I get asked a lot, and that we've been getting asked a fair bit over the last 2 years since the company existed, has been, how does Grafana Labs make money, right? Because we have this open source project that's super popular, Grafana. Many of you use it. But until recently, we really didn't have a firm answer for how we monetize that project and make it sustainable. But the good news is that in the last year, kind of since the last GrafanaCon, that's really kind of become clear now. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. I'm going to be super transparent with you guys in terms of our own thinking of what went into our products, how we're commercializing it, share with you our strategy, even share with you our numbers. We're an open source company, and we like kind of being open with you guys because we're in many ways transitioning from a community to a community and a company. So before we get started, just level setting, we have some pretty serious ambitions for the company side of things in terms of where we're going and what our goals are. It's about much more than making Grafana sustainable or just sustainable as a minimum bar. It would actually be pretty easy for us, I think, to just have a few developers and a few friendly customers and have a really sort of nice business and lifestyle business and nice salary. But that's not what we're interested in. We're actually interested in making a serious dent in the monitoring and observability space. We want to go much further and build a world-class software company around this project that makes real money. We're not ashamed to say that. The key is we've got to do it in the right way that balances the community, the needs of the enterprise on our terms, in other words. Oops. So how do we monetize? A year and a half ago, I would have made a stupid joke about saying, step number 1 is put together a great team. Step number 2, question mark. Step number 3, profit, right? But now we actually have some good answers, good products. So the two products that we really have are Grafana Enterprise and Grafana Cloud. We were always really excited about Grafana Cloud from the very early days when we launched the company, but it took us a long time to actually launch that product. It's actually much, much harder than we thought. We were almost a year and a half late in our original plans. So we launched Grafana Enterprise first in Q1 of 2016. And that's basically has been a subscription offering targeting large companies who want to run Grafana themselves. What we found is many of our largest users had zero interest in Grafana Cloud. They're basically like, yep, love Grafana. There's no way that this is going outside of my network, outside of my firewall. So you can build the best cloud product in the world, and we wish you the best of luck, but we're never going to sign up, ever, by the way. So Grafana Enterprise was our realization that we need to go after both markets. We launched it earlier. It's oriented towards larger enterprises, really call it the largest 10,000 companies in the world. So out of curiosity, how many of you here work for one of the largest 10 or 20,000 companies in the world? That's really awesome to see, because you guys are our target with Grafana Enterprise. And out of curiosity, how many of you are customers of ours in one way or another, either with Grafana Enterprise or Grafana Cloud? Wow, that's also really awesome, more than I thought. So before we continue, thank you very much. You are literally the companies and the customers and our partners in making it possible for us to do the work that we're doing on Grafana 5 and beyond. So anyway, Grafana Enterprise, targeted to large companies, price per user. We launched it quite a while ago. Grafana Cloud we launched less than a year ago in late March of 2017, oriented towards pretty much anyone, small companies, medium companies. We have a lot of tech companies using it, anyone looking for a hosted stack. And that's priced by data volume. So these are the two main ways that we monetize Grafana. So what is Grafana Enterprise? Really, it's just Grafana. We add some premium plugins that we make available to everyone who has an enterprise subscription. Those are for data sources that are generally proprietary, expensive. They tend to be data sources that enterprises are using, things like Splunk New Relic, Datadog, App Dynamics. We've recently added Oracle, Vertica is coming. So these are generally data sources that are more legacy data sources in some ways, but they tend to align with our enterprise customers. And if you have Grafana Enterprise, you get access to all of these premium plugins. In addition to that, we layer on support and training. So we do support, indemnification, we'll have an SLA for critical issues. We'll basically de-risk, make it safer for enterprises to run Grafana. Now, it's funny, because we really try to make our community support really good, too. So in all honesty, I shouldn't say this is the worst sales pitch in the world, but the community support is so good, we try to make the community support so good that actually you're not going to get necessarily better support by having an enterprise subscription. It's just guaranteed, right, in terms of the SLA. And then finally, the additional features. And this isn't done yet. We're actually agonizing over this topic. We know we have to do more with Grafana Enterprise. It can't just be some data source plugins and support. We've learned a lot of enterprises need additional features and enterprise version, and they want to do a licensing deal. And many companies in open source have kind of gone down this path. They've made high availability an enterprise feature, or clustering an enterprise feature, or alerting an enterprise feature, and we really don't want to do that. We want to really be careful about where we draw the line between core Grafana and what's behind the paywall. And feedback is really appreciated on this point, by the way. It's something it's a topic that's really important, and we're agonizing over it right now. So we'd love to hear from you in terms of what additional features you think would be suitable for that. We have some thoughts mainly around authentication, security, audit control, audit logging, but we'll see where we go with that. But that's Grafana Enterprise. So what is Grafana Cloud? That's the thing that's actually we're most excited about, because that's essentially taking our open source stack, running it for you, scaling it for you. There's clear value there. We don't have to think as much about what's open source and what's not on Grafana Cloud. And it's our main monetization channel for the company. We deliver a complete Grafana stack in the cloud, so it's Grafana plus a high-performance metrics backend that's managed, scaled, completely SLA'd by us in terms of uptime, performance. And we think it's a better way than commercial SaaS vendors, right? So, have a lot of respect for companies like Datadog, Wavefront, New Relic, but all these companies are the same in many ways. They give you a single pane of glass, but they say only with a single data source. If you're a Datadog customer or a New Relic customer, you can see a lot of stuff, but only if it's stored in that vendor's data source, in that vendor's database. And we think that that's not a way to a single pane of glass, because you're always going to have your data spread out all over the place. We also think commercial SaaS vendors are too expensive. $15 per server? Really? I mean, that's unbelievable. Do the math, right? You have a few thousand servers. Are you really, interested in writing a, couple $1 million check a year? We think that the value proposition is diminishing on that. And why would you even pay by the server anyway when, we're moving to containers, serverless computing, application metrics? It doesn't really make much sense. Too much lock-in. All these SaaS providers are proprietary. You're going to send data to them. It's their own standard. If you ever want to move, it's going to be a forklift upgrade. No flexibility of deployment method. It's SaaS. You can't run it in your own data center. So we think for these reasons, Grafana Cloud, even though it's a SaaS offering, has fundamental sort of differences to most SaaS vendors. We call it open SaaS. We think it's the third choice between open source and SaaS. And finally, we don't want to lose our own users to the dark side, right? I mean, we see ads like this from Datadog and Wavefront basically saying, move from Grafana and Graphite to something better. We think that we should, graduate our own users to stay open source, and stay on our platform. And the reality is open source monitoring and metrics is now where all the cutting edge stuff is happening anyway. It's no longer like 5 or 10 years ago where we're the cheap and cheerful alternative to, rail vendors and rail companies. You look at projects like, Prometheus or Influx or many companies in our ecosystem, and that is literally where the most cutting edge advanced capabilities are happening. Open source is a choice that people are making for capabilities, not cost. So we started Grafana Cloud with the original granddaddy, as we call it, of time series databases, Graphite. So how many people here either use Graphite or still use it? That's a lot. So let me rephrase. How many people still use it and have moved on to something else? Okay, wow, then that's telling, right? Because graphite has aged not like a fine wine, shall we say. It's much loved, but it was kind of abandoned in a way. So, we saw some key problems with it: lack of tags, lack of dimensionality, problems around Whisper, the storage engine. So we decided we're going to do something about this, right? Graphite was the first time series database that Grafana supported in version 1.0. It's over 40,000 Graphite databases in our community that are active and reporting in. It's still one of the most popular databases, even though growth of Graphite has definitely slowed. So what we did over a year ago, actually, is we hired Jason Dixon, who's the organizer of Monitorama, and also was the maintainer, the de facto maintainer of the Graphite project. And we got Graphite 1.0 out the door. And it's funny, because you could say it happened probably 4 years late, but we got it out the door, and we were kind of proud about that, because a lot of people upgraded and saw a lot of cool improvements. I'm not going to go too much into the improvements. We've got a time series panel tomorrow where we'll go deeper into that. But we did a lot of stuff with the upstream project. And that's important to us, because that's the correct way to improve the ecosystem. Not by a fork, not by trying to do our own thing, but by going upstream. And like Jason, we consider Graphite to be a standard, not a particular implementation, right? Graphite's an ecosystem. There's so much tooling. It's not about a particular, Python piece of code or a particular implementation. So we started with Graphite for Grafana Cloud. Launched it in April 2017 or late March 2017. We went after users who were pushing the limits of Graphite, who were running large Graphite installations, liked Graphite, just didn't want to scale it anymore. We were 100% compatible with Graphite, but we also added tags, which was a big sort of feature addition. We were able to import everyone's existing data, so very easy to migrate from your existing on-prem Graphite to Grafana Cloud. And it was powered on the back end by Metric Tank, an engine that we open sourced, that Dieter, one of our principal engineers, will tell you about later. And finally, we used Cassandra for long-term redundant storage. So that was Grafana Cloud 1.0, really considered a high-performance replacement, drop-in replacement for Graphite. And been launched for a year. So let's backtrack a little bit into how have we done from a numbers standpoint. I'm going to switch a little bit from strategy to numbers. So by the end of last year, by the end of 2016, just over a year ago, we had about $60,000 in core monthly recurring revenue. So that means every month we were getting $60,000 US. That was a reasonable accomplishment, but we still hadn't figured out our monetization strategy. We still hadn't launched Grafana Cloud. So how are we doing today? A year later, we launched Grafana Cloud, and that changed everything. We're now at well over $200,000 a month of recurring revenue. So basically, about a 4 times increase in less than a year. And at this point, most of our revenue is Grafana Cloud, whereas at the end of 2016, the product didn't even exist. So we're really quite happy with the adoption of Grafana Cloud. We've been able to find some really good customers who are running Graphite at scale. And the cool thing is the company is operating at cash flow break even. We're 22 people. And even though VCs are super interested and are literally kind of knocking down our door, we're being very, very careful in how we capitalize the company, make sure that we have the right control, make sure that we don't have to be pressured to turn on the monetization taps too fast. It's really important to get that, for us, to get that balance right. And meanwhile, since we've launched Grafana Cloud 1.0 about a year ago, we've witnessed a new time series database kind of come out of relative obscurity to now being the fastest growing time series database within the Grafana community. And it's actually quite incredible how fast it's growing, especially in the last 6 months. And that is, of course, Prometheus. So how many of you are using Prometheus or considering using Prometheus? Wow. So I'd say that seems like probably 70%, if I had to guess. It's now the most popular starred in terms of GitHub stars, which we all know is the definitive way to judge a project's open source popularity. So as of a few months ago, it is now the most popular by stars time series database on GitHub. We added support to it in Grafana in 2015. In fact, at the first GrafanaCon, we announced with Prometheus that Grafana had native support for Prometheus. And again, from a niche time series database back in 2015, at least as far as the Grafana community is concerned, to now the fastest growing in our ecosystem. We became members of CNCF as a company. We think PromQL is really, really cool in terms of what that team has done with Prometheus. And it's an embeddable library. So, Grafana Cloud, initially Graphite compatible. Meanwhile, Prometheus has come out of nowhere. PromQL is really cool. Prometheus is a completely open source project, and PromQL is a library. So now we're at Grafana Cloud 2.0. And now Grafana Cloud now has full Prometheus support. So that means you can use Grafana Cloud to natively query with either Graphite or Prometheus, and Grafana Cloud will be a long-term storage option for your existing Prometheus instances. So we've got a really good interoperability story. Equal, if you're running both, that's fine. If you're moving from one to the other, that's fine. If you only care about one, that's fine. It's all about choice. And choice is the key word with the Grafana Cloud 2.0. Of course, we're most excited about the choice between Graphite and Prometheus, but we're all about complementing your infrastructure, not competing with it. We're not about creating a new time series database metrics backend for Grafana Cloud. We give you choice of deployment. Grafana Cloud's now available as private deployments with Grafana Cloud 2.0, so you can run the whole thing behind your firewall. You can run it on the cloud provider of your choice. You can run it on bare metal. We give you a choice of data sources. As always, of course, you don't just have to use our metrics backend. You can continue using New Relic, Elasticsearch, Datadog. You can use InfluxDB. You can use Timescale. There's a ton of awesome data sources that, and more every day with our community. You can do a choice of inputs now. So it's not just Carbon and Graphite. You can send data to us as soon Datadog, OpenTSDB, Influx Data line protocol, and also Prometheus through the remote write. And finally, choice of backend storage. It's not just Cassandra. Our cloud will now run on top of Bigtable if you're a Google customer. We've also got some interesting announcements from Microsoft. So Grafana Cloud 2.0 is now it's a composable and interoperable metric stack, right? We really allow you a lot of choice and flexibility in how you deploy it, what tooling interoperates with it, and we just want to basically be your trusted partner in helping you scale the whole thing. So that brings us to our next announcement, which I'm super, super excited about, and this has just come together in the last few days. As part of our investing in the Prometheus ecosystem, I'm pleased to announce that Grafana Labs is acquiring our friends at Causal. Now, Causal, many of you know, Tom Willicke and his partner David, really into Prometheus. They have a hosted offering. We've been talking to those guys for the last several weeks. I first met Tom a few months ago, and after realizing that there's sort of tons of alignment between our two companies, our vision, where we want to go with open source monitoring, observability, I'm really, really happy to announce that we're going to be combining forces and hitting the market together. So Tom Willicke and his partner David Kalschmidt are going from founders of Causal to the Grafana Labs Vice President of Product and Director of User Experience. And I'd like to welcome them on stage to celebrate our recent announcement around joining forces. So please give them a hand. Hey, Tom. Awesome stuff.
Thank you.
David. Awesome. So I'll stop talking for a while, and I don't know if you have a mic you can use, maybe a handheld, where you can take this. Yep. Cool. And Tom and David will tell you a little bit about some of our plans briefly to work together. You can answer that.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, David and Tom.
Yeah, the deal came together so quickly I didn't have a microphone. But anyway, thank you so much, Raj, and everyone at Grafana Labs. It's been a hell of a journey, and I'm so proud and so happy to be joining this team. Our plans now for world domination. First, oh wow, this is terrible, this clicker, isn't it? There you go. Here you go, first for David.
Yeah, so I guess the biggest thing that was also important for us is Grafana was always, in our minds, used as kind of the starting point for incident response, and then the question was always where do you go from there? And the experience that we have, or that we bring to the table, is to have more like ad hoc exploration inside of Grafana to really just get Grafana off the wall and just do more with it. Inside, and I think we got a lot of experience out of Prometheus and working with it. And I'm front-end guy, but I had to do some DevOps lately because we're only 2 people, and I got a bit of a thrown into the deep end. And I think I learned a couple of things that I think can be really helpful in making that a really good workflow.
Thank you. Yeah, and one of the things I'm really keen to work on is Causal has a vision for really simple log aggregation in a very kind of metrics-oriented way. And we're really keen to bring that to Grafana Labs and Grafana Cloud. And this will, again, all be open source. And we're really keen to work with Raj on his open source vision. And generally, I just really like the way Grafana does business. Like, it's really core to us, like, the mission of, like, being a actual real business with revenue and not just, this VC-funded thing. So I'm super keen on that, and I'm really pleased to be joining. So thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Yep.
Indeed.